Hi everyone, and welcome to another G News review. Today is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everybody who is a mother out there today. Isn't it a great day just to think about our mothers and the people that invested a lot in us and in my case, taught me to read and paid for my school fees and was standing on the sidelines when I was a kid, supporting me and helping me to do all the things that needed to be done, coaching away, it came to passing exams at school, supporting dad, the whole thing, it's all a bit much really to cover, but happy Mother's Day, all the mothers out there who have really worked so hard to care for others. And so it's fitting that today we start just by thinking a bit about mums. And today Vicky's gone to see her both her children and spend time with them together today, and also her grandson who's out there. And so it's just a good day, isn't it, really? Every families get together, hopefully. And for those of you who have lost mum or didn't have a mum in your life much, I guess it's one of those days where we also reflect on the role. Anyway, today I just wanted to quickly start to talk about a few things that have been in the news. I think one of the best articles I've recently read was in the Dominion Post by Kelly Dennett, and this was about the comparator matrix that has been used to draw comparisons between different factors and skills that exist in different jobs when it came to pay equity claims. Now, I don't believe I've seen a very in-depth coverage of exactly how many factors are compared when you take a job that's predominantly in a female industry and compare it to a job that's quite different, that is in a male-dominated industry. Different, I mean, only, on the surface, and our impressions of what makes that largely female dominated role different from the largely male role. Our impressions may just come from hazy, shallow ideas. For example, in Kelly Dennett's article, she talks about one comparator being between a social worker and an air traffic controller. And now on the surface that looks like it's just a mismatch. It's how could it possibly be the case that these are comparable? And on the right wing of politics, we've got a lot of people who stop there, and that's all they think about before they come to what they tell themselves is a rational conclusion that the system was too loose. Anyway, I just wanted to start off by saying, look, there are all these kind of factors, and there's such a thing as a matrix, which is like an array, and there's a 14-factor matrix involved in the way in which job skills and job factors had been compared in the pay equity claims that we talk about today. So the process is very comprehensive, and what you can get is taking factors like the working conditions, whether or not you needed strength, what are the physical demands of various components of a job, whether the job involves emotion and stress to you. Then there are factors like, do you have to serve the public in this role? That would be a factor. So you can see that there are multiple different factors that each got a grade, but there were also skills like the ability to plan ahead and the ability to organize others and to organize yourself and your work. There are many, many different skills, like to what degree does problem solving play a part in this job? So you can see when you look at it from a data point of view, what can actually happen is you fill out the matrix of factors, like all of those factors and skills, and you come up with a panel who then agrees what is the right number, from all of the data that would represent, the degree of each of those skills, the degree of each of those factors. And then when you compare the data, you will get a match, and sometimes it's quite surprising. So the notion that a social worker and a air traffic controller is in fact comparable is done not on the surface but down at those levels. Possibly they both involve a great deal of stress. Possibly they involve emotion. Possibly they involve skills like being able to plan and be able to serve the public. So there's all sorts of reasons why you would call what we were currently doing comprehensive. The way in which this is all done at a data level is very interesting, and I think it's quite rational and mathematical. And I believe that this has floated past a lot of the commentators, particularly on the right wing, who are fond of saying, look, I agree that everything was a bit loose and you can't make these comparisons. The ilk of Mike Hosking, that kind of thing. But I also just want to step through right now this kind of stuff when it came to what Duncan Garner's been recently doing over at the editor-in-chief. So let's have a look at a clip where he has Maurice Williamson and he has Stuart Nash there with him to discuss pay equity and how these comparators are all a bit too loose.
I've sort of got two different views. I mean, first of all, I think the old pay equity rules were so loose.
But why? Why does Maurice Williamson think it was so loose? Where's the evidence that says it was loose? Does he have a report, that shows how loose it was? Does he have an impact statement that nobody else has seen? Or is he just an opinion that seems to actually follow the same formula, which is various right-wing hosts say, I agree with this in their language. So they step up and say, I agree that this is wrong, and I agree with what the government are doing here. I agree with Brooke Van Velden, I agree, but not why they agree. They just agree. And it seems to be on a very surface level.
Health New Zealand admin and clerical staff have an equivalence with mechanical engineers. The Health New Zealand librarians are putting a comparator of transport engineers. And my favourite of all is Oranga Tamariki social workers equating themselves to air traffic controllers. So that's the lunacy of this.
Anyway, Morris goes on and it just gets worse.
How do you get that equivalence? Now,
how do you get that equivalence, Morris? Well, before Morris actually went to air, Kelly Dennett had already written her article in the Dominion on the 9th of May, and so there was really no excuse for Morris not to know a little bit more about those factors in the data below the level at which he seems to just be making assumptions. Then Morris says that he agrees with what Van Velden has been doing when she made a proximity of comparators only within the same industry, narrowing the scope.
What Brooke Van Velden is doing, which I think is right, is to say your comparator's got to be something within your industry or close to your industry or within the company.
What had that got to do with pay equity, when pay equity is a society-wide comparison concerning similarities in roles between sectors and industries that have a big gap between the equity of pay in a female-dominated industry versus a male-dominated industry? What a strange call. But then Morris really messes it up, and Duncan Garner is chuckling away thinking that it's all really obvious. Morris then proceeds to try and show that this was good thinking, and the way he does it is he tries to use an analogy.
Within your industry or close to your industry or within the company, and not say, well, I drive a car, so I should be equated to a Formula One driver.
Oh my God, does anyone see how bad a analogy that is? If Morris was trying to prove the point that we shouldn't compare jobs across industries, why did he choose a car driver comparing itself to a Formula One race driver who drives cars? So wouldn't a better comparison have been something like comparing a nurse with a pilot, something like that, two different industries? This is the level of debate that's convincing people out there on social media. Morris goes on to say that it's all just insane.
I mean, it's insane.
Who's really rational here, and who's done the job of looking into this properly, and who's just skirting over the issues and repeating what must be a pretty strong pattern that I believe in something without knowing anything about it, that I think it's right, but I haven't looked into it, and I have really no idea. I'm just barking out my ass.
Yeah, if you stuck to, well said, Boris, Stu, if you stuck to those first reasons, that this law doesn't appear actually to be right, we want to realign it, that's actually legitimate.
And it's not legitimate at all, Duncan. This is a dumb thing to say if you don't actually know why you think it's right. Here's Camilla Ballich talking about exactly the same thing that Morris agreed with and Duncan thinks is legitimate.
She has said to us in her answer that the reason that she has decided that there is a good policy reason to make sure the comparator is closely connected to the claimant's employer is because that is more likely to determine sex-based discrimination. Now, I don't understand why that is. I don't understand why, when you're looking at undervaluation by society, the proximity to an employer is more likely to show sex-based discrimination. Because, of course, when we're talking about pay equity claims, which we are here, we are talking about the undervaluation of skills by society. This is not something like a equal pay claim, where you may be looking at the exact actions of a particular employer. Often there are reasons within the society that have led to the undervaluation. So my suggestion is that you get rid of that particular clause. This was actually the main reason that there was a different bill that was brought in by Labor than the one suggested by Nationals.
But the three wise men all agree that it hasn't been handled very well.
I don't think they've handled it well, and I think the surprise, urgency, and then I think David Seymour really put them in the poo by saying, "Oh, we've saved a budget, and without us, she couldn't have put a budget together."
The three wise men kept repeating how it's going to be seen that these hardworking women who have been robbed are now paying for military equipment.
Yeah, but when you're going to do something like this, and Morris is right, when you're going to do something like this, something that you know will be controversial, what you have got to have is a very smart, very, very good comm strategy. So the first thing you hear is air traffic controllers. Morris, that's the first time I've heard those comparators.
Yeah.
Yes.
All I have heard, and I follow the media as much as most, maybe a little bit more than some. All I have heard is this is about saving the budget. You take that a step further. So what a lot of women have heard is, we'd rather have tanks, guns, ships and planes than pay women what they're worth.
Yeah. And the rest of their interview was really about how the political management of such a decision really doesn't pass muster, and they're going to come in for one hell of a walloping. Now, I'll just leave it there, but what we've just illustrated here is this common practice on the right wing of politics to look at very surface level information only and then leap to huge conclusions, lacking any kind of insight into the real processes and the reality about the kinds of conditions and factors and skill levels that are involved across industries when women are fighting so hard because they've come from a position of inherently being paid less as they came out of the sort of initial emancipation, which is a process that's going on and on over decades. And so we've still got a way to go, and this is a huge backward step, and it's very expedient now that this is 2 weeks before a budget, or actually less than that now. So I think it just doesn't smell good to anyone. There's far too much conflation of things that were very comprehensive and working well and becoming faster with a government that's hollowing out all of the staff and resources to actually perform these kinds of pieces of work, and then with spin and a kind of a surface level brush stroke over the top, just persuading huge swathes of uninformed, generally right-wing, mostly males, who are unaffected by these changes, that Brooke Van Velden was really onto it here, and not conceptually wrong, needing no evidence, no foundation for this belief. It's a bit like all these guys are suddenly being told, hey, look, Brooke Van Velden says that there's a flying spaghetti monster, and everyone going, I think, I agree with what Brooke Van Velden is saying here. Yeah, of course there could be a flying spaghetti monster. So it's not particularly clever, but that's all I really wanted to talk about today in terms of that argument, which is obviously specious. Now, somebody actually mentioned, I think it was Gail out there, that they wanted to know a bit about this rabbit behind me. And some people say he's a hare, but his name is Henry. And Henry's got a ribbon now because Henry just spent about 2 weeks sitting in a gourmet food shop and helping to sell all of Easter wares to people in a big Easter display. And I was told that I was lucky to get Henry back again afterwards because he was dearly loved. He's a fine fellow. What else? I've been asked to comment on the keyboard behind me. Is a keyboard that I purchased when I was about 30 years younger, and it's a Ensoniq TS12, I think it is, synthesizer, and I've just had it all these years, and it's me that plays a little bit on the piano. I used to play a lot more than I do now, but yeah, I can tinkle the ivories, and learned through Royal Schools of Music when I was a kid. So there's some superfluous information. Let's just wrap this up by saying Happy Mother's Day again, and solidarity with all of the workers, and particularly all of the women who work so hard and are being undervalued in New Zealand by Nicola Willis. Have a good day, everyone. Catch you all again soon.